Welcome to Goalie Science, presented by Resilient Hockey, your premier hockey rehabilitation providers. We're here to talk about more goalie things. I'm Ben Cernick, and as always, I'm here with Jamie Phillips.
I'm Jay Phillips, and no introduction needed. Also, shout out. Ben was looking at the data from our podcast. Shout out to the 8 to 10 listeners in Australia.
You rock. We love you.
That's pretty cool. Anyways,
and also our Scandinavian contingency. Thank you all the folks from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, and Finland for your contributions.
Thanks to everyone that listens, regardless of geographical location. It does mean a lot because we enjoy this, and when Ben and I we come on before we press record, we often talk about how we're like, darn, I really wish the things that we talk about people had talked about when we played.
Yeah,
and so we're glad that we're listening, and if this helps people make more informed decisions about coaching, training, whatever, then that's really important. But today, Ben, you texted me with a pretty interesting topic, and this one is one that I've seen a bit on the internet, and immediately it just turns into this emotionally charged, opinion-based, just anger of yelling and screaming. So you are the data guy, the stats guy in the pod, and for this one, this is right in your wheelhouse of what you do in terms of collecting data that you're going to present to very important people in the hockey community. So your question to me was, NHL save percentage is down. Is it this year or year on year?
It's been hovering around. It's been going down consistently since 2015, 2016. But
for the last 5 years, it's been consistently dropping. And this year it's very low. So your question was, why is that? Now I'll let you kick it off with some actual data, because for me, this is 100% opinion based because I haven't looked at any of the data, and I'm very, very curious to hear what you found.
So first things first. So by the time I reloaded the page this morning from last night, league save percentage went down again. So shout out all the goalies who played last night.
I gotta go check the scores now.
Shout out to them for dropping it down a single point. We are, for everyone listening, recording this early on a Monday morning.
7-0, 5-3, 7-2, 3-0, 7-0. There were 3 7-goal games last night.
Well, Jamie,
5 goal games.
Jamie, that might explain the situation here. But the current league save percentage as of Monday, March 20th is .904. That is
really,
that is the lowest save percentage since 2005, 2006. It's the lowest save percentage for a league in 17 years. And so we are not going to be the first people to talk about this. A lot of hockey reporters and writers will look at save percentage because it's a really simple stat that makes sense, right? Like, how often do you stop the puck, right? It's like a really friendly stat to look at. But it's really interesting to see when you start peeling back the layers a little bit, why at least we think this is happening. And when I say we, Jamie, I'm including you. All of my opinions and all my facts are now yours.
We've only ever disagreed on one thing, and it was last week. So
yeah, show us. So I'm going to, instead of kind of just jumping right into the numbers, Jamie, I want to kind of just throw little things at you. Okay. And kind of based on your professional experience, your coaching experience, I think you'll be able to pretty quickly see where this is headed. But I'm going to ask you a series of questions here. First and foremost, do you think power play percentage is up or down over that same timeline?
I think power play percentage is down.
Power play percentage is up 4%.
Oh, wow.
In the last 15 years. So this is the highest power play conversion percentage in the modern era. So almost 21.5% of the time is a conversion rate right now in the power play.
My gut said it was up, but I thought it was going to be a trick question. This is why, like on exams, I do so poorly when I have just like 2 answers, and I go, I know it's this one, but what if it's this one? I always take the wrong one.
I thought I was tricking you there.
Yeah, I thought you were. Also because like the amount of video that goes into breaking down penalty kill structure is just like so incredibly high that I thought maybe that played a degree. But anyways, continue.
Yeah, so I'm gonna so we'll circle back to that, but yeah, highest power play percentage, and by definition the lowest PK percentage.
Yeah.
Um, oh, hold on. Since 1985.
Really?
Yeah. Uh,
Oh.
yeah. So that makes sense. It's just we almost have 2/3 of a power play goal per game, so 0.66 power play goals per game right now.
Mhm.
Um, it's just teams are converting on the power play, and we kind of know without even looking at the numbers in our heads, you can understand and appreciate that power plays lead to higher danger chances,
Yeah.
right? Higher danger chances, pucks that cross the midline of the ice, so go side to side. Think of like the Ovechkin one-timer spot. I think that's like the golden example of like someone passing it through the bumper or through the middle to the far side. Ovechkin just hammering one home. I think that's everyone's visual of that cross ice pass. But also like those low to high plays that are becoming more and more popular, or those little small bumper plays. A lot of teams are running like a 1-3-1 power play now, where that middle guy kind of floats around and serves as that bumper. And truthfully, Jamie, that wasn't around a ton when I played. Like when I finished playing, not a lot of
Bumper
guys.
guy.
Yeah, the bumper wasn't huge yet. There were teams using it. Don't get me wrong, and it was terrifying. But like I feel like it's become even more terrifying now. What was always your kind of read on that? Because that's where I go to immediately. I think that bumper and how good the guy down low who's playing by the goal line position who swings out as that 1-3-1 rotates, I think those two things contribute a lot to that just being a really hard play as a goalie. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I definitely would agree. So I guess I've never like thought about when did the bumper guy become you know become
A
what it is,
mainstay,
a mainstay in the play. But I think that so I don't want to get down to all my other points, but so strictly on the power play, I think the innovation of the bumper player, as well as like giving players more creative freedom, I think
yeah,
plays a role into it because now towards the end of my pro career, and now I see it a bunch in a few college teams, is even on a 5-on-4, they'd have these two guys behind the net and they'd work the play from behind the net just to set up one-timers from the slot. And anytime you're getting a one-timer from below the hash mark or around the hash mark, those are just prime chances. And so if someone's power play cycles around prime chances like that, you're going to have higher goals. The bumper guide now adds in the element of you have that distraction where you pulls off one of your defensemen or one of your forwards, or I guess one of your PKers away from the pass lane. And then you also have the high tip.
mm-hmm.
And just like, and then basically it's easy when I'm not a skills coach or anything, but when I do run skills, just say that your goal is to get the goalie moving. And so you can shoot while the goalie is in motion because that gives you the highest percentage of the goals. And so anytime that a power play can structure it so there's lots of motion, lots of movement, it's going to create more holes, which should, in theory, create more goals.
Yeah, I just finished up March break camp with our younger goalies, and we did video. We do always do video as part of our camps, and we watched a ton of power play goals. And when you watch the video and combine with the data, like you just see so many plays where it's a quick lane adjustment from a team, whether it's through the bumper, whether it's the cross seam, and you just see like a goalie trying to get square in on his angle on those plays, and you just miss sometimes when the play's that fast, right? Like when you're sliding through, your timing's off. Like sometimes you just rotate a little bit, or you don't hit the right spot, and at the NHL level, it's a goal, right? It's just that simple.
Yeah, it's it. It's just a goal, and the thing I like that you are doing video, especially with your young kids. Can't emphasize that enough. But one thing you had said where we talked about save percentage, and we mentioned this before. It also, like, yes, everyone will be like, oh, well, save percentage doesn't mean anything, and then, you know what? Even I say save percentage isn't the only thing, but it's what we have that works. And when it's that low, you still have to be like, okay, that's weird, and you don't want to get completely tied up in it. And also, you have to look at it compared to, I mean, you're more of an advanced analytics guy. I keep it simple. Just how does your save percentage relate to your goals against? One of my goalies that I talked to yesterday in the EGM program just telling me, he's like, hey, the program's been doing well. My save percentage, went up. I've been hovering around 9.30. I'm like, that is fantastic. He's like, but my goals against is up. Like that means you are getting more saves, more shots, and making more saves. So he's like, you got to balance those two. And I understand that you don't want your goals against to be 3-4, but if you are consistently getting 40, 50 shots every single game, and you're still making 93% of the saves, pretty happy with that.
Yeah, you're pretty busy at that point. This is a side note, but there's some people that argue that you shouldn't even keep track of goals against as a stat, because save percentage kind of tells you general success. I actually firmly disagree. I think
I really disagree with that. And it's so hard, but we should do like another episode on goalie data. But since the Mike Richter Award's coming up pretty soon, and one of my goalies is in the top 3, I will shout out him. If he doesn't win, I actually would be pretty upset. But so you look at
competition.
It's good. So like Devin Levi, of course, really good. Won it last year. I can't remember his name. The goalie to Quinnipiac. So this is when like, how much value do you place it in stats? Now he's a very good goalie. This isn't me disparaging him in any way, but when you look at the amount of shots and the quality of shots that he gets per game versus what Blake has to save, it's a really a night and day difference. Like if you're averaging anywhere from 12 to 20 shots a game, and you are a good goalie, you should have skills against under 2 and a save percentage very low. Like you should. And if you have a really good team, I think one of the numbers we were running where they only gave up over the course of 3 games, they gave up like 6 scoring chances. We gave up. Go ahead.
So he has a 1.5 goals against average. Quinnipiac legit just doesn't get scored on.
Yeah, so they give up. They just don't really. They're really good, and that's why I think they're probably going to go far in the national tournament. We gave up 12 grade A+ scoring chances in the first period the other day. So our team right now is 100% goaltending, and we know it. And if Blake doesn't play fantastic, we lose. And that's what happened against Northern, where Blake played above average. Like he had 6 breakaways, and he stopped 4 of them. But that's enough for them to win. And so that's why like it's so hard to go into it. And obviously, if the guy at Quinnipiac wins, it's just he deserved it, and I can't say much. I'm obviously very biased, but it just goes to show that like if someone has a 1.5 goals against and they're getting 4 scoring chances a game, it's very hard to compare that to someone who has a 1.8 or whatever Blake has, maybe just a little over 2. I think he's still about under 2.
I saw like at 1.98 the other day.
He's under 2, but you're giving up almost triple the amount of scoring chances that someone gets per 3 games in a period. And it's just like, how do you judge that? And that's why stats for goalies is so difficult. So difficult.
Yeah. So 2 points here. Shout out Quinnipiac for over the past few years for Yaniv Perret, who's the Quinnipiac goalie, averages less than 20 shots per 60 minutes, which is a wild statistic. Holy cow. Look, I know ECAC hockey is defensive. I get it.
Well, so is CCHA too.
Well, CCHA is...
It's not like hockey.
Anti-goals. It's anti-goals.
Yeah, that's true.
Not defensive. It's anti-goals.
Yeah, we just hate... Everyone hates scoring goals.
Shout out CCHA. Everyone loves a good dump and chase.
So true.
But let's this is actually a nice little transition. Because talking about how busy Tech has been and how busy Blake has been with these high scoring chances. So Jamie, I came with the facts today. I actually brought numbers. So first and foremost, I'd like to give a shout out to Natural Stat Trick, as well as Money Puck. So if you're listening and you want to learn about some openly available advanced goalie data, those are 2 places where they do a lot of great work and you can find stuff for free. So shout out to those places, support them if you can. But I wanted to look at why. So power play percentage is up. Okay, that's one thing. That's probably a contributor. More efficient power play, more efficient chances, goals. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I wanted to see if it was something else. I wanted to see if there was maybe more high danger chances per game. Maybe teams are just getting better looks overall, right? So I went down that rabbit hole, looked at the last 5 years, wanted to see what high danger opportunities were going on. And my only hilarious finding from all of this is that John Gibson has 100 more high danger chances than any other goalie in the league this year.
100.
100, according to Natural Stat Trick. John Gibson has had 464 high danger shot against attempts in 48 games. Jamie, the Ducks give up 10 high danger chances on poor John Gibson every single game.
Oh my gosh, poor guy. No wonder he tried to get it traded the other day or like at the deadline.
Here's the other fact, which is wild to me. We talked about this in another episode, a few episodes ago, well, probably a couple months ago now, but what we thought were some of the hardest plays for goalies. We talked about high screens or high tips. We talked about net drives with backdoor options. But we also mentioned just rush attempts and how rush attempts can be really challenging. Jamie, John Gibson has 464 high danger shot attempts against and only 64 rush attempts, which means the Ducks are just only giving up in just terrible in zone.
Oh man.
Like I think and this is going to be purely an opinion thing, and you can let me know what you use. This is where I kind of want to go to this, and we'll circle back to why after. But I always found in games where my team was getting beat up, I'd rather see a bunch of rush chances than like set up in zone lane stuff like backdoors, high tips. I'd rather see a 2-on-1 any day of the week than like a backdoor net drive.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, every goalie's got their strengths and weaknesses, and you have to play to what you like. But I would agree in that for me. So did those other two? So those two those guys that run the stats there, did they offer any other explanations for why the goals were so high?
So nothing like, again, I'm just looking at the straight raw data that they put together. So I'm looking at a bunch of giant spreadsheets here, and I was trying to figure it out. And like I said, I thought at first it might be those high danger shot against. I thought maybe there's been just more high danger chances overall. And I started plugging through different leagues, and honestly, it's a little bit up. Last year was really up. Last year, by the end of the season, there was 5 goalies who faced over 400 high danger scoring chances. This year we are on pace for that. But right now, it's just John Gibson over 400. Now there are 6 goalies who are within 50 of those chances. So if they play another 10 games and get 5 a game, like they're going to be over that 400 mark. But if you start going back a little bit, like 2018, 2019 only had 3 above 400. 2019, 2020 only had 1 goalie, your close personal friend, Connor Hellebuck, over 400. So overall, there's probably a little bit of a trend of more high danger chances, which is definitely a product of teams using data and knowing what's a better look. Like, don't take that shot from 43 feet away. There's no traffic, right? There's a lot less of that in the NHL now, and we have that quantified. Like, you can look at it. There are less low danger chances being taken per game. So we are seeing a shift away from those like high volume of just get the puck on net. Yeah. The one exception being the Carolina Hurricanes, who just throw the puck on net every chance they get. So that's how they operate.
Is there any other data that you want to throw out there in terms of that's been found before we kind of talk about the why?
Yeah, there is. And this is the big one that I found, is that overall this year, rush attempts are through the roof. So to give you a comparison, I thought this was really interesting. Back in 2018, 2019, Carey Price had the most rush attempts. In 66 games, the Canadians gave up 100 rush attempts, which is like, okay, that doesn't seem like a crazy high volume, but that was the highest amount of any goal in the league. Flash forward to this season, we already have 3 goalies over 100 with 16, 13, and 14 less games than Price played that year, and they're over 100. We have another 3 guys who are over 90, who have played 18, 24, and 14 less games than Carey Price played that year. So rush attempts are through the roof, which to me isn't really surprising either. Teams are more efficient in a transition game. And if we think about, again, like some of the hardest plays, well, we just said, I'd rather have a rush than a backdoor threat with a net drive, or a net drive with a backdoor threat. I still don't want to have a ton of rush attempts a game. I'm not actively hoping to see those in a game. Are you?
Nope. No.
Right. So when you look at kind of this stuff, and so when we think of what a high danger chance is, in the statistical terms, it's like if you have a type of specific play, 100 times, the high danger chances of play that out of 100 of that same type of play, 20 of them or more go in. So an over 20% scoring rate for the quality of the shot or quality of the play. So those are just up. Teams are getting better looks consistently. That probably ties into the power play percentage. Teams are getting way more rush attempts. That ties into the high danger chances, right? If you have a 2-on-1 and you make a backdoor seam pass, guy taps it in the back door, that's a high danger scoring chance.
Yeah.
So, and and the reason I want to bring this up today is I've heard a lot of narrative that like goaltending is like it's goalie's fault this year, and I don't think it really is. I think this is just a product of players catching up and surpassing goalies a little bit right now.
I think, yeah, that's when we talk about the why, this is really what I wanted to get into is I don't think goaltending quality has gone down. If anything, I think goaltending quality has steadily increased. Now, from probably the early 80s till mid 2000s, was there an incredible like spike in quality? Yes. Has it leveled off completely? I don't think so, but I think it's not as much of a rocket ship to the moon, but it's more of a steady incline. The thing, if you remember, like goalie schools, and for us growing up in the early 2010s, early 2000s, there were a lot of goalie schools, and people were taking goalie training seriously. And while yes, there were a lot of hot like player skills, it was not close to the degree that it is now. And if you look at what players do to get better and to own their craft, that is like increased in an incredible amount. You add that into the ability to watch games live. Like if you are on a bench in the NHL or pro or sometimes even college, you have iPads showing you exactly what you did wrong each time. Goalies don't have that advantage. You can maybe look up at the Jumbotron in who knows what the angle is. So that combined with like guys like Adam Oates who spend their whole days looking at how do you attack the defenseman's triangle? What do you do on a 2-on-1? So now the forwards are just and D are just spending the time that goalies used to put in order to be the best that they can be. That combined with a push towards more goals in the NHL, like it's not, if we wanted to take away goals, we go back to hockey pre-2004. And there's a reason that the NHL wants more goals because it's for the marketing. And so that means that goalies are going to have to accept the fact that they're probably going to give up some more goals, and that's just going to become the new normal. I think it's just we're in that transition phase where it's like you were expecting your goalie to have a save percentage at like 930, 940 for such a long time. And then now it's dropping and all the goalie community is pressing the panic button. And I don't think there is a need for it. I think that it's okay if your numbers are going down as long as you are getting better year on year. And ultimately, the win is the most important statistic at the end of the day.
Yeah, giving your team a chance to win is what we always like, at least what we always try to say. That's your goal of your game, right? Play your best, have fun, give your team a chance to win. Because again, goaltending is a reactive position, right? Like you can't create a big save to get your team pumped up. You just have to respond to one if it shows up. But Jimmy, I think this is interesting because we talked about save percentage being down overall. We talk about peeling back the layers a little bit. When you really start looking at these high danger chances, you start seeing the pattern between goalies with higher save percentage and goalies with lower save percentage and where that is coming from. So for example, for all our goalies, I say all, I'm looking at a top 20 list here. For goalies who have over a 920 save percentage, people like Igor Shesterkin, UC Saros, Linus Ullmark, Ilya Sorokin, those guys, their high danger save percentage, 874, 849, 877, 854. Vasilevsky at 864. So these guys who are above 920, which is massive. It doesn't matter how many shots your team. I mean, it doesn't matter how many shots your team's putting up. But these guys are all facing 30-ish shots a game.
Yeah.
To have numbers like that, it's really impressive. You flip it on the other end, look at Jordan Binnington, who's got a 901 save percentage, Jakob Markstrom, 900, Jake Allen, 898. You swing over to their high danger save percentage, 800, 787, 800, right? That 50-point difference in high danger start showing up a little bit over there in the overall stats. So it's like this is where we're starting to see now is this top tier of goalies who are able to more consistently make those big saves. And
also look at team quality too, though.
Oh yeah, but
that plays a major. Once you get that plays a major role into it. If your team is even remotely weak, you're going to give up so many more high danger chances, and you can only stop so many of those.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing though. Like, and this is where I will say stuff's interesting, right? Like Jordan Binnington's a good example. Guy who is he was a huge component of that St. Louis Cup run. Like he was objectively really fantastic then. St. Louis is not having a great season this year, and he's kind of a part of that. Yes, they give up a lot of chances. Don't get me wrong, right? He's faced the third most rush chances in the league. He has faced the fourth most high danger chances. Like he has been busy. Don't get me wrong. But the people he's up there with the same amount of chances, Jamie, Ilya Sorokin, Connor Hellebuck, UC Saros, Igor Shesterkin, right? It's like those guys are facing the same level of chances. Those guys are just absolutely incredible. And that's not to say, and so Binnington's had what would probably be quantified as like not a great year. Like his numbers across the board are down. He got thrown out before he could fight Marc-Andre Fleury. Like a lot of tough bounces there. But like again, it's teams are getting better, not getting more high quality chances. And we talk about goalies fitting different environments better. Maybe again, like that's where you start seeing guys struggle, right? This is where you start seeing that next layer that we're going to get down to with goaltending is what type of goalie are you? Are you a really great in-zone goalie, but you might struggle a little bit on the rush? Someone who I think of now, this is going to be a terrible example because he's having an awful year, but historically James Reimer, who like kind of floated around, and Devin Dubnyk are two guys who like positionally floated around a little bit and were really good in zone because they're really good positional goalies, but not the world's greatest skaters at the NHL level and might have struggled a little bit more in rush stuff, right? Or faster paced things, right? So that's where you start thinking about like, if you're a goalie listening to this, like where in your game are you having a harder time keeping up? Because your team is going to give up high danger chances. That's where hockey's going, everybody. More and more high danger chances. So which part of those chances do you need to work your game on, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the answer to always that is going to be, improve your positioning, improve your skating, improve your understanding of when to change your depth. We talked about how to read the game, read the play a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to being able to understand the game is super duper important for goalies. Now that it's hard, and I explained this on another podcast I was on in terms of when you go from the East Coast to the American League. In the American League, everyone is where they're supposed. Their bodies are where they're supposed to be. In the East Coast, it's way more run and gun, and so it's a lot harder to read the play and adjust in the depth. So when if you're playing, it's not Bantam anymore. It's U15 AAA. It's not going to be the same skill level as Junior A, and so that's okay because it gives you more and more experience and more ways to pattern map and understand, okay, when a player is coming down this hand, this is his options or her options, and then this is how I need to react. So building that skill and understanding of plays is going to be really important if the game, with the game pushing so much towards these high scoring rush play situations, in zone situations. And so we as goalies need to be able to adjust our positioning to be able to give ourselves the best chance to make saves.
Yeah, and this is where I think we'll start wrapping it up here, but I heard this, I'm taking this from another podcast from the Hockey PDO cast, which is a Sportsnet podcast with Dmitry Filipovich. But over the last 5 years, this is, I think, from ClearSight Analytics, I might be wrong, but over the last 5 years, shots from like below the top of the circle, like between that like kind of golden zone, are up 44%.
Oh, wow.
Should we just started the podcast with that fact and ended it right there?
Yeah, so that makes sense. Why goals are high.
Yeah, I mean, like if teams are, again, like you said, but I wanted to unpack all the reasons why, right? So that's more rush chances, right? Guys coming in on the rush, getting a better look. That's more power play touches, right? A guy going back through the seam, back door, all those things.
Mm-hmm.
That is all responsible for why those chances are up. Guys are just waiting, right? There's another kind of interesting stat that like the lower quality your shot attempt is, so like the less chance it has of going in. So let's think of like a clear lane shot from the point, the less chance your team has at getting the puck back after you shoot it, which makes sense again too,
Yeah.
right? Like if you take a bad quality shot, so a defenseman takes a wrist shot from the blue line, no one's there. Most of the time that goalie's probably putting it in a good spot most of the time, right? Like a goalie's either eating that rebound or they're making a play and their team's able to retrieve it, right? So
Yeah.
when that goes down, puck possession goes down, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we end up with less of those. That means there's more puck possession. Guys aren't forcing that shot anymore. And now goalies need to learn to adapt to that. And I think what you said was really important, is that the adaptation might just be knowing that you're going to get less of those shots and more of these high quality ones. That means we might just need to be scanning the ice more, or changing our depth more, or dealing with the fact that your save percentage might go down a little bit, and that's okay too.
Yeah. I think like if players are being taught that you have like a wrist shot from the top of the circles, and they're being taught, hey, maybe don't take it or peel away and wait for someone to get to the net, that's a one easy save percentage point that you could have had. And players are being told, and that's going to play a massive role in just the way that the game, like the forwards and players will structure their play, and their decision making is going to influence the quality of chances that we get. And that's okay. That we just have to adjust to that. And I think like we shouldn't be ringing we shouldn't be pressing the panic button. We need to make changes as coaches towards our goalies and understand why this is happening and how can we improve for our goalies so that they can, be the best that they can be.
Yeah. And I guess like to try to provide what we think might be a temporary or might be the next step into kind of adjusting for this. And we talked about it, like I said, a few weeks ago, is really reinforcing how important scanning the ice is as a goalie, right? Like knowing where your team is, knowing where the other team is, knowing where the threats are, what handedness is the player who is the threat, right? All those things that are really hard to do. It's hard to do that in real time in a game and pick up all that information, right? But the more and more practice that guys get, and that means for goalies out there listening, is taking your practice time seriously, even in your team practices, right? I get it. 45 2-on-1s in a row is pretty tiring. I also get it that your team might not be trying 100% on those 2-on-1s, but working on being able to pick up the other players on that. And I get it. Power play drills where you might not be getting a ton of work. Make use of that time, right? Work on these little skills, these quote unquote game reading skills, because if players are looking for better looks, you need to understand what the looks that they're looking for. And it really can be that simple, right?
I think it's a good place to wrap it up. So thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share this with someone. If you have any questions, let us know. I think this was a good podcast in order to look at some of the actual hard data in terms of why goals against is up and save percentage is down. And hopefully you learned something. If you are injured or are playing through pain or discomfort or anything, go to resilienthockey.com, the premier rehab experts for hockey rehabilitation. And Ben, finish this up.
Jamie, we'll wrap it up. That was a great outro. Thanks for everyone for listening in to me ramble about stats, because I think when you combine watching the game and looking at the numbers, you get a really good idea of what's going on. My final thought overall is, Jamie, all we need is a couple more 7-goal games to get league average goals against above 3. We're at 297. The league hasn't had a goals against average above 3 since 1996. I believe in our goalies. We can do it.
I guess we'll see. I guess we'll pop on the pod next week, and then it'll just be above 3.
Next week, there's 7-9-4 games again.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening or watching.